The talking is over, and Game 1 of the World Chess Championship took place today in Sochi in southern Russia. Anand with the white pieces. It was a Grunfeld, and Anand was more comfortable out of the opening. Carlsen was a little bit hesitant, but he fought back, and we joined the game after 27 moves. You can see that Anand still has some pressure here. The queen and the rook lined up nicely against the e-pawn, but pieces have been exchanged and Carlsen has just about equalised. I thought here that Anand would play a move like pawn to a3, just to give his king a little escape square, means his king's a little bit safer in some positions, and then maybe he could exchange on g6 and perhaps advance the h-pawn. This is a possibility. Black should be okay here, but it's still difficult for Carlsen to sort of break free, because obviously rook takes pawn is impossible, because rook takes pawn check wins the queen. But instead of playing a move, like a3, Anand chose to simplify the position straight away. He played his pawn to d6. Now rook takes is impossible because of rook takes pawn check winning the queen. So after d6, black has to play pawn takes pawn. And now queen d4 threatens the pawn on f6. This has to be defended, so rook f7. And now Anand exchanges pawns and takes on d6 with the rook. And you can see that black's king is very solid here. It's a kind of fortress. White is not going to be able to break through there. But I mean, really, they've simplified, and I think Anand was playing like this in order to steer the game quietly towards draw. Now, there's only one problem here, that actually Anand has these split pawns on the king side, and that means that Carlsen just has a little something to play for here. First of all, he played a6, so now they're solid and protected. Anand improved the position of his king by playing a3, but now queen a5. Carlsen started to take over the initiative. Carlsen really in his element in these kind of positions. And I think Anand really has made the mistake that he did in the match last year of simplifying too early. This queen swept across the board, targeting the weak pawn on h2. Anand had to withdraw his queen to deal with the threat, and now the queen swept back across the board, so that you can see it's taken the place of white's queen in the centre. If Anand brings his queen back, then this kind of endgame is very pleasant for black. You can see that the king is able to strike out and attack these weak pawns straight away, and that's an unpleasant position for white to defend. Objectively, probably a draw, but not easy. So instead, Anand played his rook back to d5. I think that was right not to exchange pieces there. But still, black's queen is active, so looking at this weakness here, sometimes a check can be interesting for black. Rook d7 from Anand. Now, if these rooks are exchanged straight away, then I think white's queen is too active there. But queen c6, good move if the rooks are exchanged. Anand looking to simplify, but here again, this is not so easy. On a good day, that king could find itself stomping up to attack weak pawn on f4, and this one is also weak. Black is very compact here, and that really helps him. There are no weaknesses in his pawn structure at all. Not simple for white to defend that position. So Anand nudged the rook back. Check. Now you can see that this is wonderful centralization from Carlsen. And I should say at this moment Anand was running slightly short of time. It's an uncomfortable position. Now Carlsen managed to activate his rook. The rook was tied down to the defence of the pawn on f6, but things starting to turn Carlsen's way. You can see, he might be looking to check here and bring the rook down to e2. It's a possibility. So Anand withdrew his queen and covered the c4 square. And now, nice move from Carlsen. He was really enjoying himself here. He bashed this move out quickly. So the a-pawn advancing, and that looks to cramp White's king. So this is another problem that Anand has. Has to defend his king as well as look after these two weak pawns. Here, Anand was down to just a minute or so to make his last move, a couple of minutes to make his last move. And here you really need more time. If he'd had more time, I'm sure that he would have played actively and brought his queen down, looking for counterplay against Black's king. So, for example, after queen takes pawn, rook d8, and this is quite dangerous. And Black is not obliged to play like that. But having little time on the clock, Anand compromised. He played a passive move, queen f1, just waiting, so just maintaining protection of this pawn, still covering the c4 square, but it's a passive move. Carlsen bashed out his move a4 very quickly. And this is an uncomfortable position for White with his king so boxed in. Now they'd reached the time control, so Anand now had, both players had 60 more minutes to reach the time control at move 60. And this was Anand's 41st move, played after some 20 minutes thought. He was under pressure. The rook came back, queen c2. So perhaps looking to bring the rook in here, maybe throwing in a check on b3, and of course looking at the pawn on h2. Anand thought for another 15 minutes here and came up with an interesting idea, rook d4. Here Carlsen has quite a big choice. One possibility is to play rook e3. Now there's an interesting trick, threatening to take the pawn on a3 followed by queen b3 mate. Black has pressure here. One possibility might be to check and take this pawn, but Black still has possibilities here with rook b3. So rook e3 is an idea. There's also f5. Perhaps, fixing this pawn, and that can be useful. Another idea is to play rook e4 and again go for some kind of favourable queen and pawn ending. So there are possibilities, but Carlsen played the most obvious move, rook e2, threatening queen takes pawn mate. And there's a trick here. If White goes in with the rook d7 check, of course hoping for king h6, not so clever, that would be checkmate. But king f8 is a strong move here. And after rook takes b7, here's the idea. Queen c4 check, the king has to go back, and now queen e6 is a winning move. There's no decent defence to rook e1. You can see how White's pieces have been split here, and the king is in huge trouble on the back rank. Black should win that. But instead, Anand had actually planned this, and he'd calculated that rook b4 is a good move, defending the pawn on b2, protecting the b3 square, but also setting up a counter-attack here. Now, at first glance, after the move that Carlsen played, b5, it looked as though Black had everything under control. Of course, that pawn cannot be taken because of queen c4 check, winning the rook. There you go. Double attack. But Anand, after little reflection, he had this planned, played queen h1, an excellent move. It seems hardly credible that a move like queen h1, playing the queen in the corner, can be so strong. But let's have a look. First of all, we should say that after rook takes pawn, queen b7 check gives White excellent counterplay. For example, king h6, queen b8 threatening a check. Well, in fact, a checkmate on the back rank, and white has sufficient counterplay there. And if rook g2, trying to shut out the queen, then the queen just comes back and threatens to take here. In fact, this could be a way to a draw after this. So in this position, after queen h1, Carlsen played the rook back, covering the 7th rank, and now queen d5. Excellent centralisation. You can see how the game has turned again, with white's pieces looking active. So here Carlsen forced a draw with rook e1, threatening queen b1 mate. And now Anand moves the queen in and is able to force a draw by perpetual check. King h6. And now there's nothing better for both sides than to just head for a draw, and here the players agreed to a draw. I think that was a tremendous first game for this World Championship match. Both sides really were going for it. Anand had a good opening, Carlsen fought back and actually really outplayed Anand. But Anand just hung on to the end. I think that's the difference between, well, this first game and last year. In last year's World Championship match, Anand was collapsing under the pressure. Today he held it. Anand said after the game, I played some imperceptibly careless moves just before the time control. And this ending was quite annoying, but he was very pleased with the defence he found. It was very nice. But Carlsen was also pretty pleased to have fought back from a rather hesitant start and put some pressure on his opponent. So both players can be pretty satisfied after this first game. Tomorrow, Sunday, is game 2. Carlsen has the white pieces. Join me for another report after that game.